Salute, salute, salute to everybody. This is your boy King Jr. Got some more boxing news for y'all. Jermall Charlo is surprised and still surprised that Canelo Álvarez is picking him after being off a two-year layoff after being successful against Juan Montiel, I think in June. So you guys know how I feel about the whole situation. I think this is a bad move for Canelo to pick a guy off a two-year layoff. But I know the Canelo fans is going to run around and say that, well, Jermall Charlo's still the top guy at 160 pounds. He's still undefeated at the division. Well, it's not fair in Jermall Charlo to just jump in a fight with Canelo Álvarez at 168 because Jermall Charlo hasn't even broken into the division. He's going straight into a massive fight within Canelo Álvarez, who is a dangerous fighter, arguably proclaimed at 168 pounds. But Canelo Álvarez is not the only dangerous fighter at 168 pounds. It's David, the Mexican monster Benavidez. He arguably is one of the best guys at the 168-pound division after successfully beating the former IBF champion within Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant was looking like he was on the verge of getting knocked out by David Benavidez, but the boxing skill of Caleb Plant taught him how to overwhelm it and survive and made it to the end against David Benavidez, losing on a decision against David Benavidez. We know that Canelo Álvarez has tried to negotiate a fight with Dimitri Bivol, but Bivol beat him successfully at 175 to retain his WBA title. Then next thing you know, when there was getting negotiations again, Canelo Álvarez and his team was making all these stipulations where you got to do this, you got to do that, and Bivol said that's ridiculous, we're just going to move on. Bivol stated that he wanted to fight Canelo Álvarez for his 168 pounds titles, and apparently if Bivol was going to fight Canelo at 168 pounds, the WBC title would not be on the line because Mauricio Suleiman says that Russian fighters would not be upheld to fight for the WBC belt. So Dmitry Bivol will be fighting for the WBO, IBF, and WBA, not the WBC. And we heard Samson Likowicz try to petition the fight, to go to Mauricio Suleiman and the board to petition a fight between Canelo Álvarez and David Benavidez. But the WBC wants to uphold that because they don't want Canelo Álvarez to fight his mandatory within David Benavidez, who on the record has popped positive for recreational drugs outside the sport of boxing. He lost it the first time, I believe, on drugs, and the second time during the pandemic, early pandemic of 2020 as well. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on when it comes into the sport of boxing. And Canelo Álvarez, you already been made history if you want to proclaim that you was making history before when the Dmitry Bivol stuff was happening, because you beat Sergey Kovalev for the WBO belt and you went up to 175. I thought that was being great going up to 175, but how can you go daring to be great again at 175, which you just beat Kovalev a few years back, and now you're fighting Bivol, saying you're beating the best at the division? Well, Bivol is the best at the division at 175, but Arthur Better Beef is just that guy at the division right now. But here's what I don't get. I don't understand why Canelo Álvarez wants to fight Jermall Charlo at 168 pounds, which he should not be taking this fight. In my opinion, Jermall Charlo shouldn't even be taking the fight because he needs a tune-up fight. He has been out the ring for 2 years. This is what I don't get, and this is what I don't understand. Looks like a very bad move on Canelo's part. They know what type of version of Jermall Charlo is. This is a very vulnerable Jermall Charlo. This is the same Jermall Charlo for 2 years back for 160 pounds. This Jermall Charlo is not going to be 100% when he goes into the fight with Canelo Álvarez. He can train his ass off. He can train to be 100% as he wants to, but he's just not going to be the same fighter when he gets in the ring with Canelo Álvarez, because Canelo Álvarez has been very active and has been active on the feet after being successful against John Ryder, being successful against Caleb Plant, being successful as Billy Joe Saunders, being successful against Callum Smith. But the speculation begs to differ that Canelo Álvarez should go after the Mexican monster David Benavidez. He should go after David Benavidez because he's the last guy in the division and he can clean out the 168-pound division, and there will be no doubt that Canelo Álvarez will be the greatest in the division if he beats David Benavidez, which I highly think he beats Benavidez, but I just don't think that he's confident that he could beat Benavidez because Canelo Álvarez is running into the problem that Oscar De La Hoya had when he had all those damn fights. He's turning into an aging superstar, so he's going to start losing certain abilities that he's not comfortable with doing when he was younger in his early 20s and late 20s as well. So I don't think this is a fair move by calling out a guy within Jermall Charlo. I think Jermall Charlo needs 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 at least one tune-up fight. But hey, Jermall Charlo's that guy. He always wanted this Canelo Alvarez fight. You're gonna get the Canelo Alvarez fight at 168. You got to deal with all those stipulations of the fight. So Jermall Charlo, I don't really think this Jermall Charlo cares about the sport of boxing. He's just ready to get out the sport of boxing because Jermall Charlo has a lot of stuff that goes outside the sport of boxing. Not to say Jermall Charlo won't do his best. I'm sure he's going to train his ass off, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to beat Canelo Alvarez because you have been undedicated to the sport of boxing for 2 years, dealing with outside drama of the sport of boxing outside the ring. That's how I feel at the end of the day. But if I had to make an excuse, I would make an excuse for Jermall Charlo. This is unfair. I don't think Canelo Alvarez should take a guy that's been off a 2-year layoff. I think it's kind of like a suspect, very, very suspect move because you can clear out the division to fight David Benavidez, but you want to fight a guy that's a 160-pounder, but you're dragging him up to 168. He tried to do it with Badou Jack. Badou Jack is a natural 200-pound guy, but you're trying to drag him to 185 to 186 pounds. And Badou Jack says, look, I'm not coming down there to that weight. I'm just too old. I can't really make that weight anymore. And Badou Jack says, look, you got to fight one of those guys in your division, or you could just fight Jermall Charlo at the end of the day. And I have to totally agree with Badou Jack at the end of the day making that statement. But Jermall Charlo basically laughs at the notion that Canelo Alvarez is basically trying to think he's easy pickings by him not being in the sport of boxing. Tell you the truth, Canelo, that is not an easy fight for you. It's not going to be an easy fight for Jermall Charlo either. But Jermall Charlo will be favored to beat you because if Jermall Charlo follows the Dimitri Bivol blueprint, he beats Canelo Alvarez. If Jermall Charlo stays in the pocket with Canelo Alvarez, he loses or he gets stopped with a certain punch. That's how I feel. I think Jermall Charlo should not fight Canelo Alvarez in the pocket. I will explain that fight more. But either way it goes, both of these guys have a high chance of winning. But you got to worry about the judges, and that comes into play when you fight Canelo Alvarez. You have to beat Canelo Alvarez convincingly. You have to push him back. You got to show him that you're the bigger fighter than he is. And Dimitri Bivol was successful at doing that. And I'm hoping to say that Jermall Charlo will be successful at doing that. But we got to see how this plays out when he starts his training camp and all this other stuff to see how he looks. With that being said, guys, it is what it is at the end of the day. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way in and on your way out. This is your boy King Jr. We will be back with some more boxing news. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.